I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 37. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Velocity Work Podcast. Excited that you're here. Excited to share with you today. Things are happening over here. We are just moving and grooving. I am crushing my priorities that are lined up with results that I am creating in the business. And so are the clients that I'm talking to. So for instance, the daily accountability, it's a small but mighty group there for the daily accountability. And they're making things happen that are meaningful in their worlds. Same with my clients that I work with on a one-on-one basis. And I've got to tell you, everyone talks about this COVID phase is a time, the world's slowing down. And so that's what's happening here too. We're slowing down, and that doesn't have to be true. And the more I have this conversation, the more fun it is to have the conversation around you create your own results. So we're busy over here doing that. And I hope you are also. I am teaching a class on creating results and being a results creator inside of your firm, instead of being results focused instead of activity focused. So you can go to velocitywork.com/results to sign up for that class. It's free, and developing some further curriculum beyond that. But there's going to be a ton of value delivered in the class. So head on over and sign up for that class. We don't have the registration open yet, but the first to know list is up. So get yourself on that list, and I will let you know when the class is available. The other thing I want to tell you about is, do you guys know Ernie the attorney? He's quite wonderful. I had a chance to meet him virtually, of course, last week, and what a joy and what value he brings to the world. So if you're not familiar with Ernie the attorney, you should definitely go check him out. His website is lawfirmautopilot.com. And I am going to be a speaker at his virtual boot camp, which is coming up in May. So I have been working feverishly on content for that as well. And what I'm teaching there is 3 critical factors to unlocking the growth of your firm. And I'm putting my heart and soul into it. So if you're going to be at the virtual boot camp, and I hope you are, then you'll get to see that presentation and that conversation that he and I have. Definitely go check it out if you haven't already. If you go to velocitywork.com/virtualbc, like virtual boot camp, it'll take you straight to his page, and you can check out all the speakers. He's a great guy, and I could tell he cares a lot about putting stuff out there that's going to be really valuable for people. So definitely someone you can trust, like a lot of integrity there with what he's doing, which is fantastic. Okay. Also, the daily accountability is just about over. It ends on April 30th, but if you'd like to squeeze in for the last week of it, help yourself to velocitywork.com/daily, and you can show up there. I've worked hard along with, and I'm thankful for the group that's in there that is small and mighty. We've really worked hard to figure out the most effective way to get, to really have accountability mean something, not just show up and say the one thing that is the priority, but we've actually gone a step further and figured out results that we want to tie it to for them. So it's been just such a joy to meet with this small group. And if you want to join in on that, you are more than welcome, even though it's the last week. And I think I might try to figure out a way to do this for people moving forward. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but get in while it's free, because it's free in April for small law firm owners. I did it for the COVID phase just to help keep everybody focused and productive. And it's been a great source of joy for me, and I think really helped provide a lot of results for the people who are in it. So you can sign up for that too. Now, let's get to today. Today is all about Chris and Jake from Springs Law Group. Chris Nicolaysen and Jake Kimball. You are going to love them. They are so much fun to be around. They are funny people. They're goofballs, which that's a value of mine. So I appreciate it in them. And they are really hard workers. They have busted their butts this year to hit their goals. They surpassed their goals, and just what they're creating and their work ethic and their ability and their commitment to learning and to growing themselves so that the firm grows is remarkable. And I wanted to have them on to help people see kind of what it's like in terms of me working with people and get a taste for what the results look like when I work with someone, when I work with a firm, and specifically with the owners. And so we talk high level about what it's like, what the results are. And I hope you enjoy it. And we did sprinkle in some fun as well about their experience, what it's like growing a firm, some of their favorite things we go into. And so I think it's going to be hopefully not only an entertaining conversation, but a valuable conversation. And one of the favorite things that on this podcast I do is share with you a list of lessons that they have told me over the last year that they've learned. And it is such an awesome list of lessons learned that they've continued to carry forward and learn more deeply. And, that quote that I've shared with you guys on this podcast before about the best way to grow a business is to grow the person who's running it. They have really just gone whole hog on that idea. I didn't know that quote a year ago, but that's exactly what they've done this year. They've grown themselves and their business is growing as a result of it, like gangbusters. So I hope you enjoy today's conversation with Chris Nicolaysen and Jake Kimball. Okay, I'm super pumped to have Chris and Jake with me from Springs Law Group, and Chris Nicolaysen and Jake Kimball. And I am so excited that they decided to join me. In all transparency, this is part two. We tried this once before and technology failed. So we are trying it again. But I'm a big believer that round two is always better than round one. It's just the way it was going to work out. So I think we're going to prove that true today. What do you guys think?
Well, you're the optimist, Melissa.
Yeah, I'll go for it too. I remember and I like the fact that you use French. I took French for about 6 years, and there was the movie back in the day, and maybe we could be the hotshot part too.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I don't even know if I probably didn't pronounce that as Frenchy as I should, but yeah. Okay, well, let's start. But for those of the listeners who don't know you guys, you're pretty active in the entrepreneurial attorney community, I would say, specifically Max Law, that I know for sure. But I imagine there's some listeners that haven't heard of you guys or don't know of you and your practice. So if you could take a minute and just give a bit of a rundown on who you are and what business you run and just kind of how you got here. So Chris, you want to go first?
Sure, I'd love to. Okay, so I'm Chris Nicolaysen. I came to the law a little bit later in life, I'd say, than most attorneys that I know. I started law school at 35, graduated at 38, and started practicing at 39. I'm currently 44, and so been out for about a little over 5 years now. And prior to making the jump into going to law school, I was a school teacher. I had worked a gamut of jobs prior to teaching, worked in retail in Vegas, worked in the food industry, the restaurant industry for quite a while in Las Vegas as well, and things like that. I've been married for 23 years to Gretchen, my wife, and have 2 adult children, Megan and Sydney. Sydney's 23 and Megan's 21. And then I had a really good friend who actually told me, here in Colorado Springs, to not go to law school when I was thinking about doing it after teaching. And I'll let my really good friend tell you about himself right now.
All right. So my name's Jake Kimball. Unlike Chris, I took a more linear approach, the boring way. After college, I went to Ohio State for law school. And then after law school, moved here in 2005, and that's actually when we met Chris. So we've been friends since then. But at that time, I started out doing some real estate law, which was insanely boring, and then kind of fell into insurance defense, which was much less boring, but not very satisfying. And that's why I told Chris not to go to law school, but he doesn't listen. So he's got a problem that way. So anyway, I did insurance defense for, I think, like 8 or 9 years, and then switched over to plaintiff's work. And Chris and I worked at the same firm for a bit, and then he left first because I'm much more in the less risky. I don't like to take risks, and so he took about a year of him talking me into starting a firm, and we started that in 2017.
Okay, yeah, and you started the end of 2017. Is that right?
No, beginning.
I thought when I was looking back at your records, it was 2018. Is there a chance that's true?
Maybe because we just didn't make any money in 2017.
Maybe. Okay, fair.
It was pretty close to February, or it's February-ish.
Yeah.
It's 2017.
Okay, cool. Tell all the people about your firm now.
So the firm now is, we practice personal injury law, and with an emphasis on auto accidents. And then we also do slip and fall. And then, so Jake and I are the two attorneys in the office. My wife, Gretchen, works in the office as kind of office manager / case manager /
doing the things Jake doesn't want to do.
There we go. and then we have 2 other employees here too, legal assistants, physically in-house. We also have some virtual assistants that help us out. And yeah, that's kind of the setup at the moment.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, huge shout out to Gretchen. We love Gretchen. Part of me wants to get her on a podcast. I don't know if she would do it, but.
Oh, she would.
You think? Okay, that's great.
But she got the whole podcast to herself.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Or she can just trash us.
She's incredible, which, just in case I forget to say this later as we get deeper into things, I love working with her because not that you two aren't like this, there is plenty of perks about working with the two of you. But one thing about her is if she says she's going to do something, she does it. Like, it's as good as done. It's crazy because we talk monthly in terms of more the operations of the business. And every time I bring back to her, okay, this is what we talked about last time, updates, and it's like, oh, that's done. Yep, that's good. Oh, it's like there's no leftover anything with Gretchen. She's what an awesome team member to have. I know you guys love her and are grateful for her.
We're lucky to have her.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I thought I would set the tone for listeners because this is the first time I've had a client on the podcast, and I don't just want to showcase how awesome you guys have done in the last year, but you've done pretty awesome. And so I thought we would start there and I would set the tone for listeners in terms of how we have worked together and then ask you guys some specific questions, if that's okay with you. And then we'll kind of dive in and go rogue. Is that okay?
You're the boss, Melissa.
Sounds good.
All right. I'm the boss. So, okay, for listeners, every quarter we meet and we have a retreat with Springs Law Group, and we cover a bunch of things, but sort of high level. We cover foundational tools in terms of just how we show up, how we manage our minds, how we operate. So it's foundational tools. We always look at the last quarter and review it, accomplishments, lessons learned. We evaluate the goals that we had previously set for the next quarter, and we look at those, we evaluate, we figure out if we need to change those or if they're still great. We anticipate barriers, come up with solutions. We have check-ins on accountability, culture, we set rocks. And if time permits, we deconstruct those rocks, which I've talked about that on other podcasts, but we take time to deconstruct those so they're simple and digestible steps to complete the rocks. So it's a loaded day, sometimes 2 days, depending on what we have planned. And they always bring their A game to these. There's always, the energy's really they're thoughtful. They've prepped for the meetings. And it's been the last year that we've worked together has been a privilege to facilitate, but just witness the growth for you guys, not just the business growth, but for the two of you as well. So I thought I would share, and I checked to make sure that it was okay with you guys. I went back to look at the growth rate between 2018 and 2019. And we even I even sort of rounded a number to make more sense for them. Like I won't go into that. Essentially, their growth rate was 59% between 2018 and 2019. I knew they did exceptionally well, but when I looked at that growth rate, I checked it, double checked it, triple checked it. I was like, dang, like they just knocked it out of the park. And the growth that you have set for this year, the goals that you have set for this year in terms of revenue, because you have other goals too, but revenue goal, if you meet that, that's 45% growth rate. And if you fall short, let's just say you make it halfway to the original goal that you set for this year, then you're still 22% growth rate, which is incredible. And I don't have any doubt you can meet the, like, even if you fall short goal that I was looking at. So I first of all, I think 59% is huge and should be just, you should pat yourselves on the back, because I know a lot of hard work went into 2019 to make that possible. So congrats, guys. Like, holy cow. So are you impressed with yourselves?
Jake.
I don't know that I've ever been impressed with myself in my entire life, but I appreciate you saying that.
But I think, honestly, Melissa, for us, I think too that this is why we love working with you. I think as entrepreneurs and attorneys, we're always focused on the things that we haven't obtained yet, on the things that we haven't achieved, on where our failures are, things like that. And so every time too that we come to a meeting, I'm looking at it, I think Jake is at times, where we're walking in going, well, we didn't get this, and this done for this quarter. But the great thing about working with you, though, is that you actually take a step back and go, but look at all the things you did do. Celebrate the successes. And obviously, having known you now for about a year or two, it's helpful to have somebody in our corner who can shake us out of it a little bit and see some positives, and things that we've accomplished. So it is a really big deal.
Yeah, I definitely
I
get lost in the weeds of like the crappy offers and the high maintenance clients and stuff. And so then when we go to the retreat and you show us all these numbers, I'm like, oh, actually it wasn't as bad, because I tend to forget the good and I remember the bad very well. And so you're helpful in showing the whole forest.
Well, thanks. I know what you mean. First of all, thank you for the praise and the compliment. And I also know what you mean. As a business owner myself, it's hard when you're in it to be able to see the forest, so to speak. It is easier for someone who's outside that's strictly a facilitator, and to help you be more objective in those meetings so that you can make really smart decisions and not, I hesitate to say emotional decisions, but kind of, because you kind of get stuck in this mentality of it's not accurate. The way you're thinking about things isn't accurate. And the only way to look at it in a very accurate way is to lay it all out and look at the metrics and look at the lessons learned, look at everything that was accomplished, where we did fall short. And then once you kind of look at the whole big picture, most of the time, if you have business owners that care about their business and have worked hard in that quarter, there is a pretty good feeling about what happened in the quarter. Even if you fell short on a number somewhere, you still have a pretty good feeling when you take a step back and look at the forest. I like the way you said that, Jake. So I get it. I get it's important to take that time, and not everybody does that for themselves. And I do think you can do it for yourself. You can I know someone who takes their own retreat every quarter and goes to the mountains and spreads everything out and looks at it, which is great. But I think there's real value into someone having this very objective voice and holding you to that standard so that your skewed thinking doesn't affect your decision making. So anyway, I get what you're saying big time. Well, I thought I would I went back and looked at, so every time we have a retreat I'm talking to the listeners right now, every time we have a retreat, one of the pieces is I ask them to bring the lessons that they learned that quarter, and I write them up on these big Post-its or whiteboard. And so I looked back on all the lessons that you listed from our first retreat, our second retreat, or actually the first retreat we had, you didn't have any lessons yet because we hadn't gone through the motion. So the second, third, and fourth retreat that we've held, I looked at the lessons that you listed, and there was a bunch of them. Some of them are really in the weeds about the work and about the business, but there were many lessons that you listed that I wrote up on the board that were like foundational lessons, like lessons that you see in quotes and you read in books, but you guys actually learned these like boots on the ground, were because of your experience, you learned it from top to bottom. So it wasn't just an idea anymore, or something that you knew was something good to abide by. It was a lesson that you learned through your experience. So I thought I would share those. And I'm just going to go in order of the foundational lessons that you listed, like from the middle of last year all the way through now. This is some of the ones that you've stated. The problem isn't the problem. Your perception of the problem is the problem. I love that one. That might be my favorite one. The second one, you shouldn't change your rocks. Totally agree with that. And if you guys want to stop and visit some of these, you can just stop me, or you can make a note. We can do it at the end. So yeah, you shouldn't change your rocks. Delegating to someone who can do it at least 80% as well is worth it. When motivation fades, you just need persistence. Delegation is amazing. Meetings are not so bad. Important, in fact. You may think something is common sense, but let's see. Even if you think something is common sense, it needs to be written. Have hard conversations faster. Staff wants guidance. Let's see. Vacation and unplugging is a good thing. Realization that we're doing great, like consistently realizing that you're actually doing great, which you kind of already talked about today. This one may sound funny, but I'm sure that listeners can relate to it. I had down, one of the lessons was, we're real businessmen. And then in parentheses, we're blowing our own minds, which is pretty cool. And I could say more about that if you guys want me to. The next one, less distraction equals more productivity. How to conduct reviews. We now know how to, and there's no more fear. We should expect the applicants oversell themselves. Which I like that one too. So I thought though there were some really good nuggets in there that I didn't plant those seeds. I didn't say, oh yeah, this lesson. Did you learn this lesson? Like, this is all what you guys brought to the meeting, and they're fundamental. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of the lessons that you've stated that you've learned over time. Is there one that stands out as like, that's the most important to me? Or maybe there's a couple, but what stood out of what I just read to you guys?
So for me, one of the things I'd say is I think I sound a whole heck of a lot smarter than I feel right there. It was cool kind of listening to that. The one on common sense is one. And do you have that quote available?
The problem isn't the problem, that quote?
No, it's one on common sense.
Even if it's common sense, it still needs to be written.
We may think something is common sense. It still needs to be written.
Yeah. And so that's actually something we even discussed that today. It seems to be something that just comes up, quite a bit. And it's in every aspect of the business. It's within ourselves, the way that we're communicating. It's the way that people are receiving our communications. And those people can be staff to our clients, to other business owners or referral relationships we're working with. And it's one of those things where even though I may think it's common sense to me, maybe I'm not relaying it in a way that people will understand, or they'll understand my expectations or understand the way that I'm delivering it. And so it has to be written down. And I think the other thing too that we were talking about today, that there actually has to be follow-up with it. There has to be a question at the end after I after I relay that thing that is common sense of, do you now understand what the expectation is? And so then that person can clarify what they believe, what they heard. And so that's actually something too that we're going to start using too going forward.
Cool. That's really great. It's okay if you don't, because I know I'm putting you on the spot. Do you have a specific example of when you guys, it did seem like common sense to you, but you put it in writing anyway, like something specific inside your firm, like the other owners may relate to?
Well, Chris has been trying to put his pants on 2 legs at a time. so we wrote that one out.
We created a system for that. No, I think like for us, it's been the, so like even like general, let's see, time and attendance procedures.
Okay. Yeah.
So
a lot of it's with employees.
Yeah. And so then we created a written system for that, we use Tetra for storing our systems, put it in there. And then we had a firm meeting on it. And so we have it written, we have it as a spot where people can go to understand what the baseline or the floor is for time and attendance. And so that's been one of the things that we've used. Again, though, just because you have a system written doesn't mean that's it. I think a lot of people listening would probably agree that even though you write the system, it doesn't mean it's always going to get read or get reviewed again. And so there's got to be constant follow-up and even tweaking of those systems as time goes on. And so that's something that we're looking at doing too in the future with these.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that's really good. That's valuable stuff for people listening. And I remember you guys talking about the time and attendance to you in one of the retreats. It was like, this should be common sense. Like, you don't just get to take time off. Like there's certain things that their idea of how it should be done was different than yours. And it seemed like such common sense to you guys. And so now you've put this into place and now there's something to abide by. And even though it's common sense, it's in writing. So yeah, that's great. Jake, is there one of the lessons that stood out?
I'm going to start putting these systems together for my kids because they're teenagers. Like they just can't. Some of the
I'm sure that'll go extremely well.
Yeah, they'll totally look at it.
Yeah, I think that'll really help out our relationship. Okay, what were you going to ask?
Well, I wanted to know of all the lessons that I read through, was there one that stood out to you or one that you want to comment on?
Yeah, for me, it's delegation.
Okay.
The rule is the 80-20 rule, which I hadn't heard of until recently because I'm not a businessy guy. And it's if you can delegate a task to someone else who can do it 80% as well as you can do it, then you should. And when I first heard that, I threw up in my mouth because I thought, so you want me to delegate something where someone's going to get it 20% wrong? Like, so that, that was a tough one for me. But it, like, honestly, like, because of the way that, I mean, we didn't talk much about how we have the firm divided up, but Chris takes more of the CEO role and I do more of a case management role. And so what was happening is that everything was getting bottlenecked on me because I have this thing in my head where it's like, well, no one can do it as well as I can. And so then because of my lack of delegation, cases were getting bottlenecked where I couldn't get to things quick enough. Or like one time I procrastinated something. I don't not a lot, just one time. But that's what was happening. And then getting the VAs has been awesome because they take a ton off of just tons of work on. We have them do a lot of the medical chronologies. That's the summary of the client's medical treatment. I'm sorry, the VAs are our virtual assistants. So we delegating that to them has just freed up a ton. Having the demand draft writing, all that stuff has been great. And I will say I still struggle with the 20%. Like that is a personality defect I have, which is that I think that it needs to be done my way, as if I always do it perfectly, which is false. But it's just the way I think. That's my default setting, and so that's a lesson I've learned, and I keep working on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, when did you start to realize, oh, this is actually a good thing? Like, was there a moment or something specific that you delegated and maybe it wasn't perfect, but it was like, oh my God, thank God that that's not on my plate anymore?
It was the delegating medical chronologies to the virtual assistants.
Cool.
Because I was doing those on my own, and you got to go over all the records and type it all out. And then now you just submit the records, and like this, it's like the old fable where like the shoemaker would leave the leather out in the morning. He'd come down, and there's all these shoes made that Elson made them because they were our virtual assistants are in the Philippines, so they do their work during our night. And they're really good. I mean, there's some errors, but I also make errors, and so it's not, But it's another set of eyes that'll check things. They'll know, oh, hey, you guys, looks like you're missing some records here that we hadn't realized, and things like that. So it actually, but it freed up tons of time. That was the biggest one for me.
Cool. Okay, that's awesome. You guys you said you use the VAs in the Philippines. I know you use some VAs out of India for accounting. Is there, I guess 2 questions. Do you have VAs that are located anywhere else? And do you notice a difference in the quality of work between the VAs that you currently do have? Okay, well, let's start there. I have another question, but then I'm throwing too many at you.
So I just hired today a virtual assistant. I think he's out in Bangladesh or around there to help make some email templates for me. It'll automatically go out to clients at certain phases or certain stages of their case. And so just started working with him, and the communications worked pretty well.
You're going to do like HTML.
Yeah, like an HTML. So something where we've got a better template for it. It's a little bit more artsy instead of just words going out to clients during their case. His communication has been good so far. So the interesting question in the quality of work for the current ones that we have, I don't notice a difference because it's really good. We've had other VAs in the past where it hasn't been, the quality has not been as high. And so the
amount of time they take will go up for reasons that we don't understand.
Yeah, so it'd be a time issue. So then we just ended up parting ways at that point because we weren't a good fit, and we just moved on until we found the right fit.
How do you find your VAs?
We use Upwork.com, and
cool.
I find Upwork to be pretty good. Generally, whenever I'm doing it too, I'll just do a general search on what I'm looking for, and then I'll either search a specific area, search a specific pay range, and then also check out reviews of people that have used them in the past.
Hey, Melissa, have you ever read The 4-Hour Workweek?
Yes.
Yeah, so he has a whole section in there on virtual assistants. And he uses them for all sorts of stuff that I think would be great. I need some parenting VAs right now because I'm losing my mind with the quarantine.
Well, okay, I'm glad you said this in case someone's listening to this way down the road. Yeah, we were recording this during the COVID quarantine. And so that's hilarious that you just made that comment.
5. So.
Yes, Jake has 5 kids. Is that what you just said?
I said I have too many. Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
He has 5. And are they all still at home? That answer is yes, I think.
So, I mean, 4 of them, because I'm on my second marriage. I'm like a cliche lawyer like that. And the 4 older ones are on a week on, week off schedule. So I do get a week break, unlike some parents who are probably ready to murder children or drown them in their bathtubs.
It is intense. I feel lucky that I have a newborn because they aren't running around. I think that would be hard to have kids that are you can't control. You can't just lay them down. Although if anybody hears,
my 18-month-old is always complaining about the chafing that the leash around her neck causes, and so she's constantly complaining about that. You got to put more ointment on it. It's
you guys are sick. I seriously hope that the listeners are gathering right now why you're so fun to work with. You guys are just goofballs, which I'm a goofball, so I like that. Okay, the other reason I'm glad you brought up that it's COVID and the quarantine is because that's why I said even if you fall short of your goal, like even if you only make it halfway to your goal that you were planning, I wouldn't normally have said that, but COVID is throwing a lot of uncertainty into the mix this year. And so it's just, it's good to look at the whole spectrum. So that's why I brought that up earlier. I believe in you that you can hit your original goal. I just was thinking of COVID.
Melissa, it didn't hurt
What'd you say?
We know it didn't hurt my feelings when you said that.
Okay, good. Okay, so all right, that's good to know that the lessons learned were around the delegating and the 80% rule with delegating and how much it's helped you. Although one more thing about VAs, because that's really showcasing what you're delegating. What are the different things that you use VAs for? So accounting, I know, is one. Is that still correct?
Correct. Accounting and bookkeeping.
Okay.
And then additionally on the case side, it would be for, like Jake was saying, with the medical summaries, redactions, and just kind of general review of the medical records and bills to kind of find any red flags, things like that. And then
I'm so sorry.
The other one, then the current one that I'm using is just more for background systems to help with the HTML template emails that we're going to use per phase.
Well, on the accounting one, we do have a local accountant who we really like, who's more like on the strategic level. But then the virtual assistants in India are doing more like the bookkeeping and payroll and stuff. Okay,
cool. Yeah.
But we didn't feel like they had that higher level of knowledge for tax planning that our current accountant has.
Okay. I wanted to ask too, with the VAs that handle case specific kind of tasks, did they have experience in law prior, or did you teach them from scratch?
They had experience in law and had been VAs for other firms. And then what we've just taught them are kind of our ins and outs and our quirks and how we want things done. Okay,
cool. That's great. And this may be a question that's obvious to others, but I just don't know. Has it proven to be, because you like the quality of the work, has it proven to be much less expensive to pay the VAs, or is there some other perk that you like, why you've chosen to use them instead of a team member that would come in or work remotely from home that's close by?
Yeah, so they're much less expensive than hiring someone here. They are not employees, so you don't have all those. And I'm not just talking about money, but like the issues of just giving them space, giving them a computer, giving them instruction. You don't have to do all that. And what was I had something else that was brilliant. I just forgot it.
Well, we've done, and what's great too is with both the ones in India and the Philippines, we've done Skype calls with them. We've, so I'll communicate with them through Slack or through Google Hangouts. And just, like there was an earthquake in the Philippines a while back, so I can check in with them and see how they're doing. I've checked in with both of the ones in the Philippines to see how they're handling, the issues going on in the world right now. Things like that. So it's more than just, for me, it's more than just having a bot sitting in a spot and holding a place. We treat them as staff, as true employees. I care about how they're doing. We want to make sure they're doing well, both, emotionally and mentally. And because they're people too, and they've got lives, and, one of the advantages of being a VA is that you can handle multiple projects at a time. So I always want to make sure, are they being overwhelmed, underutilized? Are we still on a spot where this relationship's working and going forward?
That is great. Do you have like a cadence that you check in with them, or you just sort of casually check in with them pretty regularly on that kind of stuff?
It's just more casual. I'm not going to calendar specific check-in time or things like that, but generally we'll just check in. Most times though, it's just, communications through our firm software and just letting us know that, this case has been completed and here, either it's good to go or here's some issues that I found.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Well, I also wanted to ask you guys about, we've talked before about your compelling reason and like why you're doing what you're doing, why you are building this firm and growing this firm. And everyone listening to this podcast owns a law firm, most likely. And so reasons may be similar, but I think it's important to acknowledge the reasons because it's hard freaking work to grow a firm and to work for yourself and to be entrepreneurial. It's much easier to go punch a clock for someone somewhere. So why, I would love for the two of you to each talk about why you are doing this, even though it's hard.
Since I jumped out first on my own, so I was, again, I was 38 when I graduated law school, 39 when I started practicing, and I was an associate at a couple firms for about my first three to 4 years, and then midway through, just realized that I couldn't be an associate for a long period of time. My track has to be a lot faster. I accumulated how would I like to put it? Like a dump truck load full of debt from going to law school. And so I had to kind of speed things along. And I knew that one way I could do that was to take control. I like having control. And so that's one of my things. And I also don't like being told what to do. And so going out on my own, and I had lunches with others that were out on their own, either solos or small firm in town. And, one of the things that one attorney I talked to told me, he's like, the question that you're ultimately going to ask yourself after you do it is, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I make the jump sooner? I know that there's books and things like that out there that say you need so many months in reserve or things like that. And like Jake said, I'm definitely I take more risk. So I just took the jump without having any of those reserves, and things were okay. But my why in that sense, obviously it's to make money, but then bigger than that for me is to create a lifestyle, for myself, and my wife, and then our children, because, I want my kids to be able to grow up and have a better life than what I did growing up. And so, and that lifestyle would be prior to, the quarantine would be to be able to go out and travel, go to conferences, to go to baseball and hockey games with my wife and things like that. So for me, it's to be able to have a business that's functional and that has the systems in place where then I'm afforded those opportunities and those experiences in the long run.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of people could probably relate to your desire to create the life you want to create on your terms, which is why you're doing this, and you do a really good job of that. Jake, what about you?
So mine's similar to Chris in a lot of ways, but for me, the lifestyle, but for a little bit different reasons. I know I make a lot of dumb jokes about having too many kids and stuff, but they're probably the thing I most care about. And I wanted a job where I didn't just need to have my butt in a seat for a certain amount of time or bill a certain amount of hours. I wanted to be able to do good work, but then also be present for my kids' field hockey game or the band concert and things like that. And because of my parenting schedule, having been divorced, on the weeks that I have the kids, I'm their only biological parent there. And so I want to be present and participating in their lives on those weeks. And then another reason, money, I'm not going to lie, and that's important too. But another reason is like the way in which the cases are handled. So Chris mentioned, it doesn't like to be told what to do. That's a problem I have too. And I have that on how cases are handled. I see the way attorneys handle some clients' cases, or the pressure from higher ups who are not handling the case on, no, you can't reduce your fee on this, or no, you can't do this or that. I want to be able to make those decisions myself for what I think is best for the client and for what I feel like I promised them implicitly or explicitly. And I felt like working for other firms, you'd have to run that by the partners, or you'd have to justify it. And I didn't care for that. So I really like the freedom of being able to represent the people the way that we think is the best way. And Chris has the same values as I, so I don't have to worry about that with him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
totally. Okay.
Well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, it's kind of what you brought up made me think of another question, and I can tell you why in a little bit. But what is one of the most difficult things you've had to overcome with the firm that you own now, just in business, whether that means you yourself, how you've had to come around or step up in a different way, or I don't know, just what comes to mind when I ask you what's one of the hardest things you had to overcome as an owner?
Well, I would say for me, it's anxiety. So it's something I struggle with, and whether the anxiety is based on a real thing or something that I've imagined, it's just as real. And so I am a worrier. I do worry about the unknown and about things especially things I can't control. I'm really good at that. And so that was super hard. Chris would tell me, yeah, we'll be all right. And I'd be like, how do you know that? Like, show me 5 pieces of evidence. And a lot of the reason I went out was just dumb faith in Chris. Not dumb faith, but like at the time it seemed dumb to me because I'm like, wait a minute. But Chris will get me to take risks that I do not normally take, and I trust him. And so then it definitely worked out, and I'm glad I did it. But for me, and it's not like, oh, now the anxiety is gone. Not at all. No. But anxiety and the fear of the unknown and the fear of failure. I do not like to fail. I am bad at that. I am a perfectionist, and I had a law firm in 2013 that did not last very long. I doubt you've heard of it, Melissa. But so then that was my piece of evidence that I could show Chris that he was wrong, that it wouldn't work. And that's a problem with a failure when you take it that way and use it as proof that you won't succeed. But
that's so true.
I just have to learn and try and get better.
Totally. I like that you just said that, because there's this idea that we all do it to some extent. We look to our past to determine what's possible for the future, and that makes zero sense, because everybody that's done anything new has never done it before. So you can't look to your past, but that's what we do as humans. And I think I have more anxiety than maybe the average person as well. So I know what you mean. I can get down pretty hard on myself, but it's important to, anytime you're setting big goals, you can't look to your past, because it just doesn't make any sense at all. But we tend to do that. I feel like you've come a long way, and you do that a lot less than you did even a year ago. Do you think so as well?
I've had a year to practice hiding it from you. So I'm like way better at hiding it from you.
I don't know, man. I can spot it because I got it.
No, I'm kidding. No, I do think I manage it better. I've tried, and we've talked about this before, but I do meditation, more mindful, and I also use exercise a lot as a stress release, and also time. So like time and success makes you feel like, oh, well, yeah, that's something that I didn't need to worry about. Kind of like the example I think of is like when I was in high school, the things that I was worried about, or the things that I thought might come to pass, that when I look back, I'm like, that was ridiculous. Like, even if it had gone that way, who cares, right? So like, even if I had been embarrassed in PE, like that has nothing to do with anything. And so then time and experiences kind of helped, but I don't think it'll ever go away. I think that's just built into my brain. But I just can't manage it better.
Yeah, that's I think when it starts to get better and better when we stop thinking it's a problem. It just is what it is, and so you manage it and stay focused on the things, the next best thing, and keep refocusing. But yeah, I think when people, so tell me if you think this is incorrect, but it seems like for myself, when I think that something has gone wrong, or I think of it as a problem, instead of just looking at it objectively and, it's just there and I just keep moving. It doesn't have to be a problem. It's one of the lessons the first one I wrote. The problem isn't the problem. Your perception of the problem is the problem. One of you two said that and I wrote it on the board, but it kind of comes back to that. Okay, Chris, what about you?
So for me, I guess I'd say that it's slowing down, or slowing down and being present. For me, I have this thing where I'm always forward looking constantly. I have a vision of where I see the firm in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and I'm always looking there. And then the other issue that I think I run into is I let things go probably to a fault at times, to where it almost seems like I just don't care, don't give a shit about what's actually happening at times. And so I think learning to work the rocks and work the goals that are currently in front of you. And I think that's really helped me kind of reach the long-term vision, because what we ended up doing with you too, I think, is we set out our long-term goals and then we work those backwards. And so that's been really helpful in that sense, just saying, hey, instead of looking all the way out here, I need to kind of work on just these little things first. And that's also then given me those things to kind of care about and hone in on. And it's interesting. I think even during this time, I was just talking so during the quarantine time, and I think this can happen even as you kind of, what I call making the donuts. There used to be the Dunkin' Donuts commercials every day, or back whenever I was a kid, where the guy would go in and his wife would say, well, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to make the donuts. And then it's just this Groundhog Day cycle of him doing the same thing over and over again. Well, I was talking to some attorney friends in town about this, and they're saying, look, it's just hard to even get motivated or get up and do anything right now because of how the world is at the moment. And one thing that I've tried doing, and I talked to my friends about, was I think even right now we have to take the wins where we can get them. So even if we can walk out of our day going, hey, I got one thing done today on my list. And, even if it's just one thing, if it's, for me on my end, if it's working on a system or hiring a VA or whatever it may be, it may not be as intensive and as groundbreaking or mind blowing as a general day would be, but it's still one thing right now. And we've got to celebrate that because of everything else going on in the world at the moment. I think it's been helpful.
Yes, I totally agree. I don't know if you guys even know, I think you know about it, but I was trying to think of how I could help attorneys in this COVID phase. And so I set up a daily accountability for the month of April that they can sign up for. And I hop on Zoom every morning at 8 a.m. my time and they check in and say what's the one thing they're going to get accomplished that day. And the next day they report back on that. And then they state the next thing they're going to get accomplished. And you're right. I think the reason the result I was hoping that would be for people is that it's easy to panic or the world is slowed down. So it kind of feels like we all need to slow down. And that isn't necessarily true. So you're spot on. Like being able to accomplish like one priority of the day that lines up with the results you ultimately want to create. And you guys are clear on the results you want to create because we've mapped it all out. Like, your rocks, your goals. And so just if you, in this weird time, to me, if you've got one solid thing in the day, as small as it may be, if it's in line with getting you a certain result that you're shooting for, it's a win. I think that's smart. That's wise of you to say, basically. Yeah.
Well, I think too, right now in a world of so many uncontrollables, I do think that I think that one thing gives you something to control.
Yes.
It gives you one semblance of normalcy that you can control on your day.
Yes. I totally agree.
I think everybody needs it right now.
I totally agree. Interestingly, the people who signed up for the daily accountability, I thought I would be helping people that were a little more, I don't know, frantic or panicked or lost. And the people who signed up are like you guys, like they're pretty clear and they just want to optimize, which has been super fun. And unexpected. I thought that it would be more freakouts, and it's not the case. It's like the owners that showed up are the ones that are committed to staying focused. They just want a little accountability doing so, which is pretty cool. Okay, so you guys talked a little bit about, like Jake, you were talking about how you didn't use the word perfectionist, but you were basically talking about how you really care how things are done. And it made me think of the Enneagram, which you guys know your Enneagram. And for those who don't know what Enneagram is, I'm not an expert in it, so I'm not going to do the best job maybe getting this across, but it's an assessment that you could take that sort of puts you in a bucket, so to speak, of how you operate. But it's different than Kolbe. I know many of you listening to this know Kolbe, and I like Kolbe a lot. But when I met Chris and Jake, they had taken the Kolbe before, but the Enneagram spoke to them much more deeply. And so we've been keeping that alive, that conversation alive as we meet about Enneagram and strengths. So I guess I would like for one of you or both of you to say, like, why do you like Enneagram over other things that you've taken before? And maybe it'll give people your perspective. Maybe it'll give them a reason to go check it out if they feel so inclined.
Well, so when we did the Enneagram around the same time as we did the I already forgot the word, the Kolbe. I almost called it the Kolbe. When I did the Kolbe, I was like, first of all, me, Chris, and Gretchen all were about the same on that, and its description was like not inaccurate, but it didn't really resonate with me on what it described as me, and it didn't describe the differences between me and Chris and Gretchen, because we are very different people. But then when we did the Enneagram, like for mine, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's so I tend to think about myself in negative terms. Unfortunately, I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm fucked up. That's my problem right there. Is that in my Enneagram? I should look and see if that's in there. But like and then reading Chris and Gretchen's descriptions, because we've known each other for 15 years, and we were friends long before we worked together. And so reading those descriptions, they were just spot on. They were more accurate descriptions of our personalities than Colby.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess for those who are familiar with Enneagram, Jake, what's your number?
Well, I'm a 3.
Okay. Yes. And Chris, what's your number?
I'm a 9 with a W, I'm a 9W1, which would mean that I have a 1 as my wing.
And I guess I could tell them too. 9 is 9 peacemaker?
9's the peacemaker and 1 is the dreamer.
Okay. Yeah. And then Jake, 3 is achiever. I know that because I'm also a 3. And Gretchen
she's a 2.
2, which is a helper, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And so anyway, it's pretty, I recommend looking into it. It's been insightful in the conversations we've had. And then also as I read some things about it for myself, I was like, oh man, because it kind of helps you see how to bring the best parts of you out. It gives some instruction there, and it's spot on I find that it's spot on for me too. Okay, cool. I thought it was worth mentioning because I know you guys really liked it, and it has helped in terms of communication and understanding how one another works. Well, okay, I have another question for you guys, which is, it is not, I almost wasn't going to ask it, but we've talked about this before, and I do think it would be helpful for people to hear what you have to say about this. But if you could answer why velocity work is important to you guys, or why it's meaningful, or you're happy with the experience of it, like why? Because I know it's hard to point, as we've talked before. I can't guarantee a specific growth rate for a firm. I can't it's hard to put a number to things because you guys are the ones that do the work. Yes, I facilitate. Yes, I'm backing you in a number of different ways, but it really does. And part of this, I want to say good job to you guys because you have done the work. And so it isn't me that gets you a growth rate. So why do you like velocity work? Like, why do you continue to work with me?
So what's interesting about it is I was introduced to you through Joey Vitale, who's an attorney out in Chicago. And then for me, find somebody, something an idea that sounds good. I want to move on it right away. So like the way that we describe the firm a little bit too is I'm the gas and Jake is the brake and Gretchen's kind of that nice, like clutch or the middle, I guess, that would kind of, slap both of us a little bit and say, what are you guys doing? Mm-hmm. So then when we did this, for me, I tend to know where my strengths are at and where my weaknesses are at, and so I knew that we needed somebody because I've read Traction. I've read any of the self-help books that you can talk about. I've probably either read or listened to them. But I knew though that at that point, we had been open for about a year and a half. We weren't implementing. And so I needed somebody to be able to do that. But I think more than that has come out of it though, for me, because there's not a single retreat that goes by where we are talking about numbers. I want to be very clear to everyone that it's definitely data. And we can have the data versus data discussion some other time, but it's data driven.
It's actually in our operating agreement. We do not call it data.
It shall not be data because of Star Trek: The Next Generation. But anyway, I digress. But the reality is that yes, it's numbers and it's about goals, but there's those things for you as velocity work that you do where you actually take time to talk about the issues that may be out there, to talk about mental health, to talk about how people are doing. We've had multiple retreats where boxes of tissues have been used and things like that. But those are the big things that we get out of it, that even if if Jake, Gretchen, and I were sitting around talking about numbers for a day, that's fine. We can talk about numbers, but we're not going to address, things that we have going in our personal lives. We're not going to address those. And we're also not going to celebrate the same way that you force celebration in a sense, but that's a good thing. A forced celebration can be a good thing, especially when you're down in the trenches. And so I think for me, that's really why I do it. I think it's those intangibles, but it's by addressing those intangibles that ultimately lead you to the growth and hitting better numbers. I think you've got to hit those. And there's too many people that just put their heads in the sand and like plug their ears and don't want to deal with it. That those are the things that will really help people grow in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. What were you going to say, Jake?
So I agree with what Chris is saying, completely. And you've been able to flush out issues and obstacles that maybe I kind of knew in the back of my mind and was either putting off, or some that I didn't realize were issues that you helped bring out. And that for me, another aspect that I really find valuable is it's just using the analogy of you as a personal trainer. I look at what a lot of personal trainers do. So I enjoy exercise and stuff like that. And I look at what a lot of personal trainers do. And I think probably 95% of what they're doing, the person already knows they should do. So if the personal trainer says, you got to stop eating donuts, well, it's not like the client is like, whoa, I never realized that was my problem. You already know you shouldn't be eating those. Or like the personal trainer says, run faster. It's not like you didn't realize that if you ran harder, you would burn more calories. But you have this person who's a cheerleader helping you set your goals, accountability partner, so they follow up. And when you have someone else holding you accountable outside. So, Chris and I are partners, but you don't, with your spouse, you would never say to your spouse, "Hey, I notice you're cheating on your diet a lot." You don't do that all the time. You're going to get a divorce. And so the same thing I think is true here. If you have an outside accountability partner, it just goes better because they're keeping you to your goals and to your commitments. And you also have a really nice way of helping us help ourselves. So you don't tell us, like you mentioned earlier, you don't tell us what we need in our firm, and you don't know. I mean, for the most part, you don't know if we need this system or that system, or we need to do these different things. But you bring it out of us in a way that, I mean, I think that every time we come up with these rocks, which are like the big things we need to work on, it's pretty unanimous, and we all agree that if we did those things, then our firm would progress. And you have a really nice way of drawing those out without, I don't think you've ever told us what to do, except not take so many bathroom breaks. I think that's the only thing that I can think of. But other than that, you help us help ourselves, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then you're not like us, which is good. I don't need someone that's like me. I need someone who gets excited about the goals, who gets excited about, or who sees the bright future. And so I think that's also really helpful.
That's good to hear. That's good to know. To piggyback on what you said, I really do believe deep down, I don't care who I'm working with. I don't even care if it's a lawyer or someone else. I really do believe that they have the answers. I just am there to facilitate and draw them out and I kind of think it's a strength for me. You know, there's I had someone interview me hard a couple months ago, like if they wanted to hire me or not. And, you know, I am detached. If someone doesn't want to hire me, if they're even on the fence, I would rather them not, because it's just not going to be the most, it's not going to be an optimal working relationship. But I had someone literally laugh on the phone when they asked about my background. I told them about my background, and I wasn't an attorney. They kind of like stopped taking me seriously. And I said, you know, this is totally fine, but I have an advantage over a lot of coaches that have just been in this industry forever, because I'm not skewed. I don't have that, like, I don't have this belief about what's best for your firm. There is no way I could know what is best for your firm, even if I was trying to come from a good place. That's just ignorance. And so I think it actually works for me that I don't understand every little inner working of your firm and of your work, because it doesn't matter. You guys know the best way. And so my job is just to help you get there. So it's interesting that you said that, because I don't think I have the best answers. I think you do. And it's just about kind of getting out of your own way to figure those out and create the plan that feels right for you and your firm. And that's going to look different from firm to firm to firm. There's no two plans that should look the same. So go ahead.
You have a better buy-in from the client when they came up with the solution themselves, instead of you just imposing it on them. I mean, I think that's true with any human being. If you help them see why they should change, or they come to the realization of what they need to change, that's going to be way more effective than if you just tell them, "Hey, you're fat, you need to lose weight." You know, I mean, it just is how the human mind works, I think. And so I think it's really effective.
Well, that's great. You guys have been so much fun and to work with, because you do the work. You know, we said earlier, like, the results you've created those results. And I know that I have been a part of your journey, and what a privilege it's been to be a part of your journey. And I'm glad you find value, and so much so that, you know, this year when we talk about renewing, do you want to continue to work together? I was pumped when you said yes, because it's valuable enough to you that you will continue to invest in this for yourselves. And I mean, that's my goal. I just want to keep being useful and keep being valuable and finding new and better ways to do that. And so I'm grateful we get to work together in the future too. So
wait, did Chris say yes? I thought we were going to think about that.
I was going to ask the same thing if Jake said yes.
Shut up. You guys are nuts. Okay, and then I wanted to ask you some, just for fun, rapid fire questions, if you guys are up for it.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
I'm psyched.
How do we put this? This is fun, period.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
God. Okay, so rapid fire. Just to keep it simple, how about Chris, you always go first, Jake, you always go second, just to keep it rapid fire?
No.
It was alphabetical order, if you're wondering why I chose that. They always have a competition about who's first when I'm writing.
More than me. Now you finally admitted it. I appreciate it. Yeah, we can do it that way.
Okay. Okay, what's your favorite book? And if, don't worry about, this doesn't have to be end all be all. I have trouble with favorite questions, but what comes to mind when I ask you that? How about this? Favorite business book?
Oh, okay. I'm going to go with, let me go with Bob Burg's The Go-Giver. I've seen Bob speak a few times on some groups that I'm in, but his book, it's a short book, but it's done in a story mode, which I really enjoy. And I think it's one too. I'm a believer that in businesses, you've got to be more than just solely about the numbers, and it's got to be about giving back and giving. And it's one thing that we've done here. So Bob Burg's The Go-Giver.
Cool. Okay. Jake, what about your favorite business book? I know you love business books.
I knew you liked Chris more than me because I don't like business books. I'm going to say Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and I don't care if it's not a business book.
That's great.
It helps me in the business.
Yes. I love, if anybody listening to this has not listened to that, you should listen to the audiobook. More than, you could read the book, but the audiobook has extra stuff that's really cool. That is such a good book. It's so extreme and I love it.
I just read a book about a millionaire who hired David Goggins to train him for a month. It's called Living with a Seal.
Oh, Jesse Itzler.
Yes. And it is hilarious. You can hear, so in the book, he does not, apparently Goggins, this was before Goggins got famous. He told Itzler not to use his name, and so he just refers to him as Seal. But you can, if you've read or listened to Can't Hurt Me, you can hear Goggins' voice come through, and it is like I laughed out loud several times in that book. I really.
Oh, that's awesome. That is great. I don't know if you guys follow David Goggins on Instagram.
Yeah,
but that's interesting. But then also Jesse Itzler is awesome on Instagram.
Oh, I haven't followed him. I'll have to check him out.
He is great. He's just so intense, and he's a dad. He has 4 kids. They're little, and so he's just like all in. His whole life, he's all in. Okay, that's great. And then favorite podcast?
Mine is the Tony Kornheiser podcast. I listen to it every day.
I don't even know this one.
Tony is he's a co-host of Pardon the Interruption on ESPN. He's been doing it for years. He used to work at the Washington Post. And so he has, he lives out in DC. He is the sole reason why I am a Nationals and Capitals fan. So the Tony Kornheiser podcast.
Oh, I love it. I just learned a little nugget about you. That's cool. Okay. Jake, favorite podcast?
So I got a tie.
Okay.
Pardon my take, which is just a couple of dumbasses. Big Cat and PFT that they mostly talk about sports. But they have like a great way. It's kind of satirical. Their humor is satirical in that they take these huge, ridiculous takes on over the top takes on sports. And then lately I've really fallen in love with the podcast called Conan Needs a Friend, which is Conan O'Brien. And he brings on these famous people, usually comedians, and they just have these discussions that I think are great. They'll talk about mental health. They'll talk about, they're usually funny, but it's also just the format for some reason. I don't care for talk show format or talk shows on like his talk show. I don't watch Conan's talk show just because I feel like it's just a bunch of commercials with a little bit of talk in between. And these are like actually long discussions where a lot of the people will just kind of open up, and it makes me feel like, hey, look, here's this really successful person who's got the same problems I do. And they found a way to overcome them, or they're trying to find a way. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. Okay. I didn't know about any of those three. I love this. Favorite guilty pleasure?
Mine is I play Fortnite with my brothers.
Oh, nice.
Hands down, I play. My wife would say probably too much. It's it's either that or getting tattoos. But yeah. So, but right now I can't get tattoos, so it's playing Fortnite.
Okay, Jake.
Food.
Food.
I eat a lot of shitty food. And like I love it. I derive so much pleasure from it. So yeah, it's a problem.
That's awesome. Okay, how do you stay sane?
I'm saying?
Are you asking Jake that because of his food thing, or is that your next question?
No, that's the next question. Just
okay,
with all the chaos of the world and work and how hard you guys work, how do you stay sane?
I guess that's an interesting question. I'm a pretty go with the flow guy. So
Chris is like Mr. Zen.
Yeah.
Without being one of those annoying people that's always talking about Zen, or like he just is like he just is, he's like the dude. He just abides.
Yes, which is that's such a compliment. So yeah, I'm not the one to really answer that question. I just be.
Okay, that's great. Jake, how do you stay sane?
Exercise. I'm obsessive about it.
That's and you have been meditating too. Is that?
Yeah.
Would you add that to the? If I could give you more than one answer.
So, like, I actually think of exercise as meditative. And like, for me, I can. So, for example, this morning, and I'm not trying to like brag about exercise.
Here we go.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram. That's where I do all that.
That's not true.
But like, so this morning I got up and I have all these voices in my head, things I don't want to do, things that I'm going to fuck up today, things that I'm anxious about. And my goal was to go on a run, and it's 20 degrees outside, and I'm like, this is stupid. But I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. So I went and I've been trying to run more because the gyms are all closed. Normally I like to do gym stuff, but I ran and I got 4 miles in, and at the end of it, my brain was just empty. Like all the voices had gone away, and I felt really good about what I'd done. And I didn't have a good time at all. It was just, I didn't go for a run. I went for a trudge. It was more like it, but like it just, it can clear my mind in a way that nothing else can. And it can also, make me just feel better about life. And then to me, that's kind of meditative. It's doing the same thing. The reason I do the meditation separately, I use an app I use an app called Headspace, is I wanted to find a way to, like, when things pop up during the day, to deal with, because it's not like you just go for a run or lift weights in the middle of the day, when a client's complaining about something or other. And so that's more like a work in progress. I think it's helped. I mean, I feel like I'd be freaking out about COVID. Chris is nodding his head. And I'm just okay with, like, I don't know how things, like, intellectually, I'm like, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but I'm not freaking out about it, which is, I'm surprised myself on that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes me think too.
And it's gonna hit me in May. Like, oh, yeah. The economy's falling apart.
That makes me think too. I was wondering if you're channeling your inner David Goggins when you don't want to go for a run. It's 20 degrees, but you like did it anyway.
Part of it, like listening to him, dude, he does way worse stuff. I mean, I'm not going to even compare myself to Goggins, but like, that's his thing. Is he's like,
no excuses.
Like, you can sit there and think about it, or you can just do it.
Yes.
It's funny, like in the Itzler book, Itzler talks about, and I was thinking about this morning, is Itzler's like, Goggins gets there, and I think he's training him in December, and it's in New York City. And Itzler's like, it's 15 degrees outside, and Goggins is like, no, it's not, motherfucker. And Itzler's like, no, I'm looking at my computer, And he's like, I don't give a fuck about it. And by the way, Goggins swears a lot. I don't give a fuck about your computer. It's like 60 degrees outside and it's balmy. And it's just like, what are you talking about? And it's, it's the problem's not the problem. It's the way you look at the problem. And, it's definitely inspiring. I don't need Goggins level in my life. I think I would lose a lot of relationships that matter to me if I got that to that level. But that as a tool to think about what you're trying to do is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me think of also we were talking about at the last retreat it came up that like it feels hard to get going on your rocks. Like you don't really want to do the hard work it's going to take to get to the goals, but you do want to do it. That's why you're doing it. But it's kind of the same thing as like you just need to lace up your shoes and go. And the time is going to pass. Like the end of 2020 is going to be here, and you can either have crushed a bunch of things that you really were intentional about, or you could not, but you're not going to end up where you want to. I don't know. It makes me think about that. It's similar with exercise and what you just said. Like you don't want to do it, but you do want the results. So you got to do the thing you don't want to do. Yeah. And that quote, we talked about the quote, discomfort is the currency for your dreams. Like it's kind of the same thing.
That's going to be my first tattoo, Melissa.
Oh my gosh. If it is, I would just die. That would be so cool. Maybe I should. I didn't even think about getting that as a tattoo, but now it's on my brain.
Right across my chest, and then you can catch it every time I post my workout videos on Instagram.
Jeez. Oh, jeez. Okay, next rapid fire. And let's see. Something that makes you. Oh, what's one tool or something that makes you more focused at work? Does anything come to mind?
Oh, the quartet. So I have this thing from Quartet. It's a small little like whiteboard or clear board in front of my computer. And I'd highly recommend getting one. I think they run about $20 or so, but it's one where if I'm thinking of an idea or need something like quick, instead of, grabbing like 50 Post-its, which I have a wife that has a Post-it addiction, but the Quartet, little desk whiteboard has been really helpful for me.
Cool. Okay. I did not know about that. Jake, what about you?
So in the time, remember back when we weren't all stuck at home,
right?
We would have blocked off time where we could work at home, and that was awesome because there weren't distractions. There's no phone calls. I wouldn't open up my email, and so then. And it's funny because now it's flipped. I was just telling Chris, I'm like, because I've got all those kids at home, I came into the office this morning. I'm like, oh, it's just quiet. And I can just sit down and read my email. I'm like, nobody hit me in the face and no one complained that they're bored. And it's just like, man, it's just nice. So it flipped.
Yeah.
Now it's the office and the phones aren't ringing, which is a bad thing, but it also is a lot fewer distractions.
I was looking to see which quarter it was, but one of the lessons that you mentioned that just didn't feel as foundational, it felt like more tailored to you guys, was working from home was much more productive. I can't find it, which quarter it was in, but yeah, you mentioned that before. So it's interesting. You said it again just now, like that really is meaningful for you. Okay. What about,
if I can not be interrupted? It's like, I feel like I can just get so much more done.
Yes.
I'm not a tasker at all.
Okay. Well, that's what I've got for the rapid fire. I do think though, Chris, will you share what you learned about Audible? Cause we've talked about audiobooks a little bit today. So yeah.
So again, I'm going to give a disclaimer. I'm no Audible expert and I've only done this once, but So I was talking to my brother a while back and he's got Audible and was listening to a bunch of stuff, but he talks about how he's like returning books on Audible. And I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Always felt like once I bought one, it was there forever. And so I hit return on a couple books that were just sitting there that I never really listened to. Some of the books that I tried to return that were over a year old, I couldn't do that. But then the ones that were less than a year old, I was able to return and get my credit back. And so I ended up with like 5 or 6 credits that on books that I had listened to or books that I had started and realized they weren't the right fit. Again, my test subject is only once, and I'm looking to do this again, hopefully shortly. But I thought it was a good service.
Is Audible sponsors, Melissa, for this podcast?
Yeah, right. I was pumped to learn about that. I'm going to try that because, there's times where I get a little overzealous and I download a bunch of books and I have the best of intentions and I don't get to some and I'm not going to get to them. And so that's an option for that. Or like Chris said, if you start a book and it's just not what you were thinking at all, the ability to be able to return that. So we aren't 100% sure, but you learned about it and you're going to look into it. And so I thought, we should share that with people in case that is the deal, then other people should know that it could be an option.
And many people may know. And
yeah,
if you find that it doesn't work, you can edit it in post-production.
Right. There you go. Perfect. I probably won't. That's okay.
Send them a strongly worded email if it doesn't work. Please.
Yes.
Right.
You like a good email.
I'll get a VA to draft a strongly worded
email. If you can be at least 2 paragraphs long, he'll read it. He loves a good email.
Well, tell everyone how they can reach out and contact you guys if they would want to, whether it's just a high five, this is a great podcast, or whether they want to actually talk. What's the best way to find you?
No high fives, Melissa.
No, we're not doing that.
Oh, that's true. Social distancing.
So you can find us at springslawgroup.com, or you can email us at Chris, CHRIS, at Springs Law Group, or Jake, JAKE, at Springs Law Group. And then additionally, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. And we're just at Springs Law Group on both of those.
Cool.
Check out what we're doing in the community.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. You're just a joy all the time. And this was no different. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye. Hi guys, it's me again. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this podcast, you probably understand that growth requires results, not just staying active. If you want to learn how to build your days around getting results, I'll show you how in this zero fluff class that I teach. Go to velocitywork.com/results for registration information. I cannot wait to see you there. If you want to hang out with us on social, come on over to Instagram. Our handle is velocity.work. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/meetvelocitywork. Cheers, my friends, to real growth and a great life. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.